Hi, I'm Sue O'Very and welcome to Seal with a Stitch. I am so happy that you joined me here today for our exclusive In the Hoop Club. In this lesson, you're going to learn to create your very own exclusive In the Hoop Club coaster. And did you notice that this is actually part of the In the Hoop Club logo? We're going to create applique, finish off the edge, and learn all kinds of fun little tricks. So grab your sewing machine and let's get stitching. Alright, let's go ahead and review our materials and our kit. Starting right here, we've got our 5-inch square, which is going to be our back, and then we have our silver dot square, which is going to be our main front, and then we have our applique material. This is what actually is going to be the sewing machine. And then to adhere the applique to our coaster, we're going to be using a fusible web. In this case, we're going to be using Heat and Bond Light. And then to actually create the coasters, these are amazing. They are 4-inch round pre-cut. They're made by Bosel, and they're going to be using 2 of them, one for the front and one for the back. And then of course we have our stabilizer. This is just a tearaway stabilizer. So let's go ahead. For right now, all we're going to need for the first portion of our project is going to be our front and our back. So let's take those, our front and our back, and then our 2 coasters. Everything else can get put aside, and then I'll see you at the pressing station. First thing we're going to do is press our front and back with our best press. And then with the goddess sheet opened up, we're going to place our coasters. Now both sides should have adhesive, so double check that. But if you see that one side has more adhesive, let's have that adhesive facing up. And then we're going to take whichever side you deem the wrong side. So like on the silver dot, it's definitely, this is the wrong side. So we're going to place that with the wrong side, facing the coaster's shiny side. And again, with the back, we're going to do the same thing. This is a piece of material that has the same on the front and the back, so it doesn't really matter. Just give them a little space here. And so again, it's going to be the wrong side facing the coaster that has the most shiny. They should have fusible on both sides, but just double check. Okay, we're going to close our door and we are going to fuse these to the material, the coasters to the material. Okay, now cool that little goddess sheet down. Gotta cool that baby down. All right, now we're gonna open up our door. And now what's so cool is those coasters have become adhered to that back and that front. Now grab those small shears. These are some of my favorite scissors. If you've never invested in a pair of these, do so. They're shorter than your regular fabric shears and they're equally as sharp. So you're not working with a longer pair and you have a lot more control. Now I like to cut with the coaster facing up, and you're going to cut close to the coaster but not cutting the coaster, and we're removing the extra fabric away. And do that with the front coaster and the back. Okay, now let's prepare our hoop and our machine. With your machine, go ahead and insert a brand new embroidery needle size 7511, and then wind a matching bobbin to your thread and insert that bobbin into the bobbin case. Choose your design, which is the coaster, and then go ahead and insert your stabilizer into your hoop, And then next thing we're going to do is insert the hoop into the machine and sew stitch sequence number 1, which is basically a running stitch for the positioning of the coaster. So go ahead and do that, and I will see you right back here. See you in a minute. Now that we have a running stitch, which you'll notice is exactly the same size as your coaster, what you're going to do is use your glue stick, and we're going to put a lot of glue in here because this is actually what's going to hold and secure your coaster for the next secure stitch. So you're just going to take your coaster and you're going to place it inside that running stitch and get it nice and centered width and height, and then just give it a nice firm press. The next thing we're going to do is insert the hoop back into the machine, and it's going to create a little secure stitch, which is a small zigzag all the way around. I would recommend that you might want to hold your finger, it's a really good idea is using the other end of the glue stick while it's stitching. So I'm actually going to see you at the sewing machine to show you a couple of little tips on that. I'll see you there. Alright, let's go ahead and start stitching, and you're going to notice we're going to create a zigzag stitch all the way around. You can hold it with your finger, but if that makes you uncomfortable, you can use a stiletto, or the end of this glue stick works really good too. Once it gets going, it doesn't really need to be held as much, so it's just kind of in the beginning and maybe toward the end. You can even kind of come in from the back side just to kind of have it held down. Perfect. We're going to leave the hoop as is, and we're going to go to the ironing board to prepare our applique material. I'll see you there. Okay, we're going to use a steam iron to create the fusible applique, and the reason that we're actually adding the fusible web to the wrong side of the applique material is to give a little extra body to the applique material, and later on the applique material will be fused onto the front of the coaster permanently. This way, after washings, and if your friends spill any wine on it or tea, depending on what kind of friends you have, as it's washed, the applique won't bubble or buckle. So, and this is a really great application of applique for any kind of project, whether it's on a little kid's shirt or quilts or whatever. So on any kind of applique that you're doing, you always want to use a fusible paper-backed web on the wrong side of it. So here's what we're going to do. On the wrong side of your applique material, you're going to have the scratchy side of your paper-backed fusible web, and we're going to close the door of our goddess sheet, make sure everything's nice and flat, and you're going to press it really good. Follow the manufacturer's instructions. This time we're using Heat and Bond Light. So I'm going to say press it until everything's adhered, probably a good 10 seconds. Okay, you can always go back and press it again if it didn't get adhered to any certain portions. Okay, let's cool down that goddess sheet. All right, look, I think it's definitely fused because you can always tell when it's adhered to the goddess sheet. All right, let's peel it off. And remember, we can kind of see some of the little fusible on there. Don't forget to remove that now so you don't forget later. Right, and I think this is definitely on there real good. Let's find a corner we can remove this. And we're going to remove the paper right now. Look at that. Fantastic. So about 10 seconds was the trick. Let's crumple that up, and we're going to throw it over to Marty Cat so she can play with it. Okay, real good. And now what we're going to do is go back to the embroidery machine. So I will see you there. Already stitched our secure zigzag to our coaster to the stabilizer. Now we're going to sew stitch number 3, which is the applique position stitch, and that is going to be just a running stitch of the sewing machine. Let's go ahead and do that. Now the applique material that you've created with the fusible web on the back side, it may or may not have tackiness to it. Mine has a little bit left over kind of from the fusing. What we're going to do is just place this with the right side facing up and the tacky facing down directly over that sewing machine, that running stitch. Now lower my presser foot and press start. The next stitch sequence is going to be number 4, and it's going to be the applique secure stitch. It's going to be the exact same running stitch, and it's going to secure the applique to the coaster. It's going to be the sewing machine. Let's go ahead and sew that. All right, perfect. Once you're done with the applique secure stitch, what we want to do is cut around, and we're going to do that on a flat surface. So I will see you at a flat surface. Okay, we've just removed our hoop from the machine, and now we're going to go ahead and start cutting our applique. One thing we want to remember with applique is you always want to cut from the outside in to an applique. I kind of remember it as being invited to an applique party. I think of it like that we have an invitation to get our applique party started. So you want to come from the outside in and just keep rotating your hoop and cut from, again, the outside in. And this way you can cut really close. Sometimes I use duckbill scissors. This time I'm using a shorter curved scissor. You can kind of see that right there. And so it's just really entirely up to what you're comfortable with. I like these because they're short and curvy. Ooh, kind of like me. So whatever you're comfortable with. And you'll just see here that I'm just manipulating the material and rotating it. Now what I mean by cutting from the outside in is as if, let's say you're in the party, you're inside the applique and you're pulling the material toward you and cutting this direction. You can't cut the material as close. But see how close I'm able to cut when I cut from the outside in. And now this way I'm able to cut real close. So give that a try, and I'm just going to keep rotating around, especially when you get into the inside area here. You're cutting from the outside of the material into the applique. Look how close we're able to get. Now anytime I digitize that running stitch that was to secure this as a triple running stitch, which means that if you accidentally cut that, don't worry, it's still going to be okay. So see how I just keep rotating this, and we are just fine with cutting. And there you are, my friends. So now the next thing we're going to do is, remember we had fusible web applied to the applique. Okay, let's just slide over our ironing surface here, and we're just going to use our mini iron to fuse the applique down. And you can do this application of using your applique with the fusible web onto any flat surface for t-shirts, quilts, bibs, anything, because now what it's going to do is the applique will not buckle or bubble or anything. It's going to be perfect. Okay, the next 2 steps, I'm going to send you off to your embroidery machine, and the first one's going to be stitch number 5, which is going to be the enchanted swirly, and then after that you're going to do the satin stitch all the way around that. So do those 2, and then I will see you back at the flat surface. Doesn't that enchanted swirl and the satin stitch look lovely? Okay, now what we're going to do is turn the hoop to the wrong side and make sure it's nice and flat. You don't want to do this on your lap. You want to do this on a flat surface. Get that glue stick out again, and you're going to glue up the back inside the stitching area, inside that coaster. And you see like these little threads right here? What I do is I just kind of take my glue and make sure they're inside the coaster area too, and get that area nice and glued up. Glue it up, girls and guys. All right, get that area nice and glued up. Okay, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the back coaster. And isn't it fantastic that these coasters are perfectly cut to the right shape? It's exactly 4 inches, and we have already digitized everything for you so that it's the right shape. And be sure to take a look. There's a coaster collection that has more available. Okay, now here's something that's a little tip, kind of like patty cake. You're gonna do a little patty cake with this one. You're gonna smush it with your hands this way, because if you just push on here, you might reduce the strength of the stabilizer. So don't just push here, do a little patty cake, all right? Then we're gonna take a piece of long, clear tape, and we're gonna go for, and see, that might not even be long enough. So we're gonna retire this piece of tape over to the corner. We're gonna get a nice long piece of tape, because we want this tape to extend beyond the coaster and to the hoop, the actual hoop. So smush it onto the coaster, smush it onto the stabilizer, and then wrap it around to the actual hoop. All right. I don't actually know how to put that in instructions, so it's nice that you're watching the video, because we're gonna smush it onto the hoop, stabilizer, and the coaster. This will give it a nice, good, secure foundation when you turn this to the right side now. And then I give it a little extra patty cake smush, all right? And then we're gonna put this back into the machine. We're gonna stitch the next stitch, which is the exact same little zigzag that you sewed earlier, and it's going to secure the front coaster to, you guessed it, the back coaster. Okay, my friends, so go ahead and do that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come back here. All right, the reason that I have you take the hoop out of the machine at this stage, and after you do a couple of these, you'll probably make up your mind not to do that as often, or just slip out the hoop. But the reason why is you want to remove your tape at this point. So just gently remove the tape. And the reason why I have you put enough on there is so it's easier to remove. So remove the tape. Make sure that the coaster did in fact get caught all the way around. If you want to clip any of those loose threads, you can do that. You can clip any pooky threads or fabrics, you can do that at this time too. And then just get rid of any major pieces of tape. Once you've completed that task, then your next and final stitch, my friend, is to insert the hoop into the machine for the final satin stitch. So now we're going to do that. So once you're finished with your final satin stitch, bring it back to the flat surface, and I will see you right here for the final conclusion of our In the Hoop coaster. All right, I'll see you back here. Okay, once you're all finished with your final satin stitching, you are ready to get this coaster out of the hoop. So I do it a couple different ways. You can be really gentle and you can like push it out and all that. What I like to do is I just like to punch it out, you know, just take any aggressions that you might have, you know, at the garbage man, or, you know, maybe somebody didn't take out the garbage, you know, whatever your aggressions might be. Or just, you know, like, hey, I finished my project and yeah, I got it done. So whatever it might be. But I like to do that. It just makes me feel really good about myself. So, and you know, and as women or as, you know, sewers, sometimes we just need a good old punch it out kind of day. So when you're done with that, you're all finished with your hoops. We're going to put that to the side. Now let's talk about the coaster. It's all finished. You might have like a few little pokey ends. Let's address that. There are different kind of seam sealants. I have a few of them here. You will find your favorite. It kind of depends on what your store sells as well. My store, my local dealer carries all 3 of these. So let's talk about them, and then your store can order different ones or whatever they have in stock. For this project, actually, this is kind of my favorite, the fray check. And the reason why is because because it actually, it seals it off kind of crispy. And so if I'm working on something that it needs to end like a napkin corner, like the corner of a napkin, and I want it to end soft, I actually really like fray block, because fray block finishes the corners and it finishes off your linens really soft. So that's why I like this one. Now fray block also comes, and I'm going to put this away for a moment. Fray block also now is available with a paintbrush, kind of like nail polish, and then you can also apply your seam sealant with the brush application. So that's really nice. So same thing. So those are just some thoughts. So fray check is a little bit more, you know, crisp when it dries, and fray block is a little softer. So those are just two opinions, or my opinion, of just two different products. So what we're gonna do though with this particular coaster is, when we're finished, we want to take any of these little pooky, you see how it's kind of white right there? We want to take any of these pooky little threads, and we want to just finish them off, round them toward the back. So what we're going to do is, we're going to show you two different options. I'm going to take this fray check, put it on my fingertip, kind of see the glossiness. I'm going to roll it along the edge, about an inch, and then roll it toward the back. And you can actually almost see that it kind of seals in the white. For some reason it just kind of, I don't know if it puts all the black threads together, what exactly it does, but it kind of seals it off. So that's one option. Let me do a couple of inches of that. So about an inch of it together, or along the edge, and then roll it your threads toward the back. So you can kind of see there, from here to here we've done, or see we haven't done that. So for some reason, it actually does a really good job. So that's one option. Then the other option is to use the paint-on method, which is available with the fray block. And you can do the same thing. You can paint it on, about an inch worth, and you can paint it down. And I feel like you have to put a lot more on, but you also have a lot more control, and you're not having to goober up your finger. So it's really entirely up to you. Now, there's another option, and that is to get some pens. I know at my local, not at my local dealer, but I know as I travel to different stores teaching, I find different goodies, and at one store I found these different markers, and so you can check these out. This is Fabrico markers. And then this was another brand. These are Edding. So this was just another brand of fabric markers that I found. And so you could just draw in the edge right here. And so that's yet another kind of permanent solution to finishing off your coasters. And we'll scoot everything out of the way, and let's just test this thing out. Let's just make sure with our bottle of water that, oh look, it actually works. Very good. It is a functioning coaster. Very good. Perfect. Oh, pardon me. I was so thirsty from doing my In the Hoop Club taping, but I now have a place to put my water bottle as I am filming and then stitching next to my machine. I've got my adorable In the Hoop Club coaster that is, of course, exclusive for all my friends. So be sure to show all your friends the fun that you have in your club. So now you can take your little coaster and sit it next to your machine with your water bottle. Now I want you all to have a creative day, and don't forget to think inside the hoop. Bye!